The morning shift alarm echoed through the mining station New Busan as Kim Tae pulled on his work suit. The asteroid belt around them sparkled with ice crystals and rare metals, a beautiful sight that never got old. He had been working here for 3 years, and still loved watching the sunrise through the observation deck windows. Another day in paradise, his friend Park Min-ho joked as he joined Kim Tae at the coffee dispenser. The brown liquid tasted terrible, but it kept them awake. During the long shifts, around them the mining station hummed with quiet activity as the day crew prepared for work. Kim Tae smiled and sipped his coffee. At least we get the best view in the galaxy. Captain Lee Hana walked into the common area, her usual calm expression replaced by excitement. She carried a data pad and moved with quick steps. The crew looked up from their breakfast, sensing something important was happening. "Everyone, I need your attention," she announced. "Long-range sensors picked up a ship approaching our sector. It appears to be of unknown origin." The crew exchanged glances. First contact with alien species was rare but not unheard of. Earth had made peaceful contact with 4 different alien races over the past 50 years. Each encounter had followed the same basic pattern: careful observation, slow approach, and patient communication attempts. "What kind of ship?" asked Dr. Nam Jisoo, the station's medical officer. She was young but experienced, having served on 3 different frontier colonies. "Large, approximately 2 kilometers long. The design is unlike anything in our databases. It's heavily armed but not approaching in an aggressive manner." Captain Lee looked around the room. "I'm implementing First Contact Protocol 7. We attempt peaceful communication while preparing for any outcome." Kim Tae felt his heart rate increase. He had read about first contact situations in training, but never expected to experience one himself. The possibility of meeting a new intelligent species was exciting and terrifying at the same time. Over the next 6 hours, the alien ship moved closer to New Busan. Captain Lee tried multiple communication methods, radio signals, mathematical sequences, even basic pictographs transmitted via laser. The alien vessel did not respond to any attempt at contact. "Maybe they don't understand our signals," suggested Choi Yuna, the station's xenobiologist. She had studied alien communication methods and understood how difficult it could be to establish meaningful contact between different species. "Or maybe they're studying us the same way we're studying them," Park Min-ho added. He was monitoring the mining equipment but kept glancing at the main display showing the approaching ship. The alien vessel finally stopped about 10 kilometers from New Busan. It was massive, dark gray with angular surfaces that seemed designed more for intimidation than efficiency. Weapon ports were clearly visible along its hull, though none appeared to be actively targeting the mining station. Captain Lee made her decision. "I'm going to take a small shuttle and attempt direct contact. If they won't talk to us over radio, maybe they'll respond to a face-to-face meeting." "Captain, that could be dangerous," Dr. Nam warned. "We know nothing about their intentions or capabilities." "That's exactly why we need to try. Earth's peaceful expansion protocol requires us to exhaust all diplomatic options before considering any ship hostile." Captain Lee was firm but not stubborn. She genuinely believed that most conflicts could be avoided through patient communication. Kim Tae surprised himself by speaking up. "I'd like to volunteer to go with you, Captain." "Kim, you're a mining engineer, not a diplomat." "But I am human. If they're trying to understand our species, they should meet more than one of us. Besides, someone needs to handle the technical aspects of the shuttle systems." Captain Lee considered this for a moment, then nodded. "All right. But we follow standard first contact procedures. No sudden movements, no weapons, and we retreat immediately if they show any signs of hostility." 30 minutes later, Kim Tae and Captain Lee were aboard Shuttle 7, approaching the alien vessel. The ship was even more impressive up close, with intricate patterns carved into its hull and technology that seemed centuries ahead of human capabilities. "New Busan, this is Captain Lee. We're within 500 meters of the alien vessel. Still no response to our communications." Her voice remained steady despite the obvious tension. "Understood, Captain. We're monitoring your approach," came Park Min-ho's voice over the comm system. A port opened in the side of the alien ship, clearly designed for docking. Captain Lee looked at Kim Tae, who nodded. They had come this far, and turning back now would accomplish nothing. The shuttle connected with the alien ship's docking port with a soft mechanical click. Through the small window they could see a brightly lit chamber beyond the airlock. "Atmosphere appears compatible," Kim Tae reported, checking his instruments. "Oxygen levels are actually higher than Earth normal." They put on their emergency breathing masks as a precaution and opened the shuttle's airlock. The alien ship's interior was surprisingly warm and comfortable. The walls were smooth metal with a slight blue tint, and the lighting was gentle and even. 3 figures waited for them in the docking chamber. The aliens were tall, nearly 3 meters in height, with gray skin and 4 arms. Their heads were elongated with large black eyes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They wore armor that looked both ceremonial and functional, decorated with symbols that meant nothing to the humans. "I am Captain Lee Hana of the human colony New Busan," she said slowly and clearly. "We come in peace, hoping to establish friendly relations between our species." The center alien stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was deep and seemed to come from multiple sources at once. "I am Commander Vex of the Vorthak Empire. Your species is unknown to us." Kim Tae felt relief. They could communicate, which was always the biggest hurdle in first contact situations. Universal translators worked well once they had enough language, samples to work with. "We're honored to meet you," Captain Lee continued. "Humans have always sought to learn from other intelligent species and to share knowledge peacefully." Commander Vex tilted its head, studying the humans with those large black eyes. "You speak of peace, yet you expand into territories that do not belong to you." "We only settle in uninhabited systems," Captain Lee explained patiently. "We have no desire to take anything that belongs to another species. All space belongs to the Vorthak Empire. All resources exist for our use." Commander Vex's voice carried no emotion, just cold statement of fact. Kim Tae felt the first touch of fear. This wasn't going the way any of their first contact training had prepared them for. "Perhaps we can reach an understanding," Captain Lee tried again. "Humans believe that the galaxy is large enough for all species to coexist peacefully." Commander Vex made a sound that might have been laughter but contained no humor. "Peace is weakness, understanding is deception. Your species has revealed its nature through your words." The commander raised one of its forearms. In its hand was a weapon unlike anything Kim Tae had ever seen, crackling with blue energy. "Wait," Kim Tae said, stepping forward. "There's no need for violence. We can discuss this." The energy beam hit him square in the chest. Pain, unlike anything he had ever experienced, tore through his body. The weapon was designed not just to kill, but to cause maximum suffering before death. Kim Tae collapsed to the metal floor, his breathing shallow and labored. Captain Lee dropped to her knees beside him, but Kim Tae could see in her eyes that there was nothing she could do. The wound was too severe, and they were too far from medical help. Through the growing darkness, Kim Tae looked up at Commander Vex and the other Vorthak soldiers. They watched him die with cold curiosity, as if observing an interesting scientific experiment. With his last breath, Kim Tae activated his comm unit. "Commander Vex," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I forgive you. I hope someday your people find the peace that seems to frighten you so much. May you discover that strength comes not from causing pain, but from preventing it." The comm unit fell silent. Commander Vex stared down at the dead human, its black eyes unreadable. In 17 conquered worlds, no dying enemy had ever spoken such words. Captain Lee was taken prisoner. The shuttle was destroyed. New Busan was left intact, but only so it could serve as a warning to other human colonies. But Commander Vex kept the recording of Kim Tae's final words. Commander Vex stood in the central chamber of the Vorthak High Command, watching as the Council of War reviewed the recording from New Busan. The massive room was built to intimidate, with walls of black stone and weapon displays from conquered worlds. 12 senior commanders sat in elevated seats, their forearms crossed in the traditional pose of judgment. Play it again, ordered Supreme Commander Krall, his voice echoing through the chamber. His armor was more elaborate than the others, decorated with symbols representing the 17 species the Vorthak had destroyed. The holographic display showed Kim Tae's final moments once more. The human's words filled the silent room. I forgive you. I hope someday your people find the peace that seems to frighten you so much. General Thax, the oldest member of the council, leaned forward. This is clearly a deception. No species would forgive their killers while dying. It must be some form of psychological warfare. Or, suggested Commander Nix, it proves that humans are even weaker than we initially calculated. They are so pathetic they cannot even hate their enemies properly. Supreme Commander Krall studied the recording with his large black eyes. Regardless of their motivation, this recording will serve our purposes. Distribute it to all military units as an example of human weakness. Let our soldiers see what happens to species that choose peace over strength. Commander Vex shifted uncomfortably. Something about the human's words bothered him, though he could not identify what. In his 300 years of military service, he had killed thousands of enemies. None had ever spoken to him the way Kim Tae had. Commander Vex, Supreme Commander, Krall's voice cut through his thoughts. You will lead the next phase of human elimination. Study their colonies and find the most efficient way to destroy them all. It will be done, Supreme Commander. But as Vex left the chamber, Kim Tae's words echoed in his mind. May you discover that strength comes not from causing pain, but from preventing it. 2 days later, the recording was transmitted to every Vorthak military base in the Empire. Soldiers watched it during their daily indoctrination sessions, meant to reinforce their superiority over weaker species. Ensign Thek watched the recording in the barracks of Deep Station 9, surrounded by 50 other young soldiers. He was only 20 years old, barely out of basic training. Like all Vorthak, he had been genetically modified to suppress empathy and increase aggression. The process was usually completely effective. Usually. Look at this pathetic creature, laughed Sergeant Vec, pointing at the image of dying Kim Tae. It speaks of forgiveness while bleeding on the floor. This is why humans will be easy to destroy. The other soldiers made sounds of agreement and contempt, but Thek found himself staring at Kim Tae's face. Even in pain, even dying, the human's expression held no hatred. Only sadness, and something else that Thek could not identify. That night, Thek could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Kim Tae's face. He had killed before, during training exercises with prisoners of war. He had felt nothing but satisfaction at completing his mission successfully. So why did this recording disturb him so much? Meanwhile, in the human colony of New Seoul, Park Min-ho sat in his small apartment, staring at his own copy of the recording. The Vorthak had transmitted it to human colonies as well, apparently as a warning of what awaited them. Park had been Kim Tae's closest friend for 5 years. They had worked together, shared meals together, and spent countless hours talking about their hopes for the future. Now Kim was dead, killed for trying to make peaceful contact with a new species. But instead of hatred, Park felt something else. He felt the weight of his friend's final words and the responsibility they carried. The next morning, Park sent a message to every human colony in known space. The message was simple, but powerful. My friend Kim Tae died trying to build a bridge between our species and the Vorthak. His final words were not of revenge, but of forgiveness. I believe this is what makes us human. We must not let his death turn us into the very thing that killed him. I am starting a foundation in Kim's name, dedicated to finding peaceful solutions even with those who would destroy us. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Donations poured in from every human world. More importantly, thousands of volunteers offered their time and expertise to what became known as the Thai Foundation. Dr. Choi Yuna was among the first volunteers. As a xenobiologist who had studied alien psychology for 15 years, she was fascinated by the Vorthak response to Kim Tae's words. Look at the body language in the recording, she explained to Park during their first meeting. Commander Vex shows clear signs of confusion and discomfort after Kim speaks. That suggests the words had an impact, even if the Vorthak don't understand why. But they killed him anyway, Park replied. And they're planning to kill all of us. Yes. But something changed in that moment. The Vorthak have conquered 17 species over the past 1,000 years. Every historical record shows the same pattern. They arrive, they demand surrender, they destroy those who resist. But this time was different. Choi pulled up her research files. They left New Busan intact. They could have destroyed the entire colony as an example, but they didn't. They kept Captain Lee alive when they usually kill all witnesses. And most importantly, they distributed the recording of Kim's death to their own forces. What does that mean? I think it means they don't understand what happened any more than we do. When a species builds their entire society around the idea that might makes right, genuine forgiveness becomes impossible to process. It's like showing a blind person the color red. 3 weeks after Kim Tae's death, Ensign Thek was assigned to a routine patrol mission. His unit was ordered to inspect a small research station that had missed its scheduled check-in. The station was inhabited by a family of scientists studying asteroid composition. Dr. Shin Woo-bin, his wife Lee Minji, and their 8-year-old daughter, Shin Hara. They had been living alone for 2 years, conducting research that would benefit multiple species. Standard protocol, Sergeant Vek announced as their ship approached the station. Eliminate all humans and secure any useful technology. But when Thek saw the family through the station's observation window, something strange happened. The little girl was playing with a toy spaceship, making it fly around the room while her parents worked. She was laughing, a sound Thek had never heard from a victim before. The family noticed the approaching Vorthak ship and did what humans always did. They tried to communicate. Dr. Shin activated the station's communication system and spoke in careful, simple words. Welcome, visitors. We are peaceful researchers. We mean no harm to anyone. We would be honored to share our discoveries with you. Sergeant Vek laughed. They all say the same things, weakness disguised as diplomacy. But Thek found himself thinking about Kim Tae's words. May you discover that strength comes not from causing pain but from preventing it. When the time came to board the station, Thek hesitated. Sergeant Vek noticed immediately. Problem, Ensign? No, Sergeant. Just checking my weapon. Inside the station, the family waited calmly. Dr. Shin stood protectively in front of his wife and daughter, but his hands were empty. He was not trying to fight or hide. He was simply waiting to see what would happen. Please, he said quietly. If you must kill us, at least let our daughter live. She has done nothing wrong. Sergeant Vek raised his weapon, but Thek found himself stepping forward. Wait, he said, surprising himself. Maybe we should question them first, learn what they know about human colonies. It was a weak excuse, but it worked. Sergeant Vek lowered his weapon, annoyed but willing to follow proper interrogation procedures. During the questioning, something unexpected happened. Little Shin Hara, who had been quietly hiding behind her mother, walked up to Thek and offered him her toy spaceship. You look sad, she said in her small voice. Playing with toys makes me feel better when I'm sad. Thek stared down at the child. No one had ever offered him a gift before. No one had ever cared if he was sad. In Vorthak society, emotions were weaknesses to be eliminated, not comforted. He found himself taking the toy, holding it carefully in one of his 4 hands. Thank you, he whispered. Sergeant Vek was watching everything with growing suspicion. Ensign Thek, step away from the humans immediately. But it was too late, the damage was done. Thek had experienced kindness from an enemy, and it changed something fundamental in his mind. The genetic conditioning that had suppressed his empathy for 20 years began to crack. That night, after the family had been taken prisoner and the station destroyed, Thek lay in his bunk staring at the toy spaceship. He had hidden it in his personal equipment, though he could not explain why. For the first time in his life, Ensign Thek felt guilt. In the weeks that followed, the recording of Kim Tae's death continued to spread throughout the Vorthak military. Most soldiers reacted as expected, with contempt and amusement. But a small percentage, like Thek, began to experience strange new emotions. They started questioning orders. They hesitated before killing prisoners. Some even began to show mercy to conquered populations. The infection was spreading, one soldier at a time, and the Vorthak High Command had no idea that their own weapon was destroying them from within. 6 months after Kim Tae's death, Ensign Thek had been promoted to lieutenant. His superiors noticed his improved focus and dedication, not knowing that his motivation came from a growing desire to understand the strange feelings that plagued him daily. The toy spaceship from Little Shinhara remained hidden in his personal storage. Sometimes, late at night, he would hold it and remember her innocent words. "You look sad. Playing with toys makes me feel better when I'm sad." Now Lieutenant Thek stood on the bridge of the warship Bone Crusher, preparing for what his commanders called a cleansing operation. Intelligence reports indicated that Mercy Station, a civilian trade hub, was being used to supply human colonies with weapons and medical supplies. "This will be simple," announced Commander Zek, the ship's captain. "We destroy the station, eliminate all witnesses, and move to the next target. The humans must learn that helping their own species only brings death." Thek studied the scanner readings. Mercy Station housed approximately 3,000 beings from 12 different species. Most were traders, mechanics, and families who had built their lives in the neutral zone between empires. "Commander," Thek said carefully, "the station appears to be genuinely civilian. Our sensors detect no military weapons or defensive systems." "Exactly why this will be easy," Commander Zek replied with satisfaction. "Fear spreads fastest when the victims cannot fight back." As the Bone Crusher approached Mercy Station, Thek watched the massive structure through the view screen. It was beautiful in its own way, with different architectural styles blended together as various species had added their own sections over the years. Gardens were visible through transparent walls, and small ships moved peacefully between docking bays. The attack began at dawn, station time. Vorthak fighters swarmed around Mercy Station, destroying defensive shields and communication arrays. The station's inhabitants tried to evacuate, but there was nowhere to run. Most of the civilian ships were too slow to escape the Vorthak fighters. Thek was assigned to lead a boarding party to secure the station's medical bay. His orders were simple: eliminate all personnel and destroy any supplies that might benefit human colonies. The medical bay was located in Section 7 near the station's center. As Thek and his squad moved through the corridors, they encountered no resistance. The civilians were either hiding or had already been captured by other Vorthak units. When they reached the medical bay, Thek found something he had not expected. Dr. Nam Jisoo, the human medic from New Busan, was working frantically over several wounded figures on medical tables. She had somehow escaped the destruction of her original colony and made her way to Mercy Station. Now she was trying to save lives while explosions echoed throughout the station. But the wounded figures on the tables were not human. They were Vorthak soldiers. "Lieutenant, we have humans in the medical bay," reported Sergeant Rex over the comm unit. "Understood. Proceed with elimination." But Thek did not move forward. He watched through the doorway as Dr. Nam worked to save the life of a Vorthak warrior who had been injured when his fighter crashed into the station's outer hull. The human doctor's hands moved quickly and skillfully, using techniques that Thek recognized from his own medical training. "She's helping our people," whispered Private Dex, one of Thek's squad members. "Why would she do that?" Before Thek could answer, Dr. Nam noticed them standing in the doorway. She looked up from her patient, her hands still working to stop the bleeding from the soldier's wounds. "Please," she said calmly. "I need more time. This soldier will die if I stop now." "He is our enemy," Sergeant Rex pointed out. "You have no reason to save him." Dr. Nam continued working as she spoke. "I'm a doctor. I save lives. It doesn't matter what species someone belongs to or what uniform they wear. Pain is pain, and death is death." Thek stepped closer, studying the wounded Vorthak soldier. It was young Private Kex from Fighter Squadron 12. Thek had trained with him just months ago. Without Dr. Nam's help, Kex would certainly die. "Move away from the prisoner," Sergeant Rex ordered, raising his weapon. But Dr. Nam did not move. "I won't abandon a patient. If you want to kill me, you'll have to wait until I'm finished," She continued working, completely focused on saving the life of someone who had just been trying to kill her and everyone else on the station. Her dedication was absolute. Her compassion, genuine. Thek found himself thinking about Kim Tae's final words again. Strength comes not from causing pain, but from preventing it. Lieutenant? Sergeant Rex was growing impatient. Your orders? Thek looked around the medical bay. There were 6 wounded Vorthak soldiers on the tables, all being treated by Dr. Nam and 2 other human medics. Enemy forces working to save the lives of their attackers. Stand down, Thek said quietly. Sir? I said stand down. Let them work. Sergeant Rex stared at him in confusion. Lieutenant, our orders are to eliminate all humans in this section. Our orders are to secure the medical bay. These humans are providing medical aid to our own soldiers. Killing them would result in the deaths of our people. It was a weak justification, but it worked. Sergeant Rex lowered his weapon, though his expression showed he was not convinced by Thek's reasoning. Dr. Nam worked for 3 more hours while Thek and his squad stood guard. She saved 5 of the 6 wounded Vorthak soldiers. The 6th, a veteran sergeant named Grix, died despite her efforts. As he passed away, Dr. Nam gently closed his eyes and whispered words of peace in his own language. She had learned Vorthak funeral phrases specifically to comfort dying enemies. When the medical work was finished, Dr. Nam finally looked directly at Thek. Her face was tired but peaceful, showing no fear despite being surrounded by armed soldiers who had orders to kill her. Thank you for letting me finish, she said simply. Why? Thek asked. The question had been building in his mind for hours. Why did you save them? They were trying to destroy your home. Dr. Nam cleaned her hands and considered her answer carefully. My friend Kim Tae once told me that we become what we practice. If we practice hatred, we become hateful. If we practice killing, we become killers. But if we practice saving lives, we become healers. She gestured to the 5 recovering Vorthak soldiers. These individuals may be my enemies today, but they are also someone's children, someone's friends. Maybe if enough people choose to save lives instead of taking them, we can change what tomorrow looks like. Thek felt something shift inside his mind. The genetic conditioning that had controlled his emotions for 26 years cracked a little more. You knew Kim Tae? He was like a brother to me. When he died, he asked us to forgive his killers and work for peace. I'm trying to honor that request. Over the following weeks, word of what happened in Mercy Station's medical bay spread through the Vorthak military. The story was supposed to demonstrate human weakness and stupidity. Instead, it raised uncomfortable questions among the soldiers. Private Kex, one of the soldiers Dr. Nam had saved, found himself unable to participate in attacks against civilian targets. When ordered to destroy a human hospital, he developed a mysterious equipment malfunction that prevented his weapons from firing. Lieutenant Yex, who had served with distinction for 15 years, began questioning the logic of eliminating species that showed such dedication to preserving life. He started having dreams where he was the one lying wounded on a medical table, being saved by the very people he was ordered to kill. Captain Voss, a decorated veteran of 8 conquest campaigns, found himself studying human philosophy in his spare time. He accessed captured data files and read about concepts like mercy, forgiveness, and compassion. These ideas should have seemed foreign and weak to him. Instead, they made more sense than anything he had learned in military training. The infection was spreading faster now. What had started with Kim Tae's dying words was becoming a psychological plague that threatened the very foundations of Vorthak society. Supreme Commander Kral began receiving reports of soldiers refusing orders, showing mercy to prisoners, and asking questions about the purpose of their conquests. Military efficiency was declining across all sectors. In response, Kral issued Emergency Order 17, the complete extermination of all human colonies within 6 months. No prisoners, no exceptions, no mercy. If human weakness is infecting our soldiers, he announced to the Council of War, Then we must eliminate the source of infection before it destroys our empire. But it was already too late. The kindness virus had taken hold and it was growing stronger every day. Lieutenant Thek still carried Shinhara's toy spaceship in his equipment pack. Sometimes he would look at it and remember Dr. Nam's words. We become what we practice. He was starting to understand what that meant, and he was starting to practice something other than war. Supreme Commander Krall stood before the largest military assembly in Vorthak history. 10,000 warships surrounded the Empire's capital world, their crews ready to begin the final solution to what High Command now called the human problem. Today we end the infection that threatens our way of life, Krall announced, his voice transmitted to every ship in the fleet. Every human colony will be destroyed. Every human will die. Their weakness will no longer poison our soldiers with doubt and hesitation. But even as he spoke, Krall noticed something troubling. Many of his commanders avoided eye contact. Some shifted uncomfortably in their seats. A few even seemed to be silently questioning his orders. The kindness virus had spread further than anyone realized. Lieutenant Thek stood on the bridge of his assigned vessel, the destroyer Shadow Strike. His promotion had come with command of his own ship and crew, but the honor felt hollow. His orders were to eliminate Colony 7, a peaceful farming settlement with 15,000 human civilians. Lieutenant, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's being broadcast on all frequencies. Put it on screen. The image that appeared showed a woman Thek had never seen before. She was middle-aged, with kind eyes and graying hair. She wore simple civilian clothes and stood in what appeared to be a small office decorated with pictures of families and children. My name is Bei Suman, she said calmly. I am Earth's ambassador to alien species. I am speaking to you today not as a government official, but as one living being to another. Thek found himself leaning forward, interested despite himself. 7 months ago, a human named Kim Tae died while trying to make peaceful contact with your people. His final words were of forgiveness, not hatred. Today I want to share his story with you and tell you why his message of peace is more important now than ever. Ambassador Bei began telling Kim Tae's story in detail. She spoke of his childhood, his dreams of exploring space, his dedication to building bridges between different species. She showed photographs of him working, laughing with friends, helping other colonists with their problems. Kim believed that every intelligent species had the capacity for both cruelty and kindness. She continued. He died believing that even those who killed him could choose a better path. Thek felt his chest tighten as he listened. He had never thought of Kim Tae as a real person with hopes and dreams. The human had simply been a target that died as expected. I know many of you are preparing to destroy human colonies, Ambassador Bei said. I know your orders are to kill everyone you find, but I also know that some of you are questioning those orders. She paused, looking directly into the camera as if she could see through it to every Vorthak soldier watching. To those of you who feel doubt, who wonder if there might be another way, I want you to know that you are not alone. Kim Tae's message of forgiveness extends to all of you, even those who would destroy us. There is always a choice. The transmission continued for 20 minutes. Ambassador Bei shared stories of other humans who had chosen compassion over revenge, peace over war. She spoke of the Thai Foundation's work to find alternatives to violence. Most importantly, she offered amnesty to any Vorthak soldier who laid down their weapons. We will not ask you to betray your people, she promised. We only ask that you refuse to participate in genocide. There is a place for you among us if you choose peace. When the transmission ended, Thek's bridge fell silent. His crew of 30 soldiers stared at their control stations, unwilling to meet each other's eyes. Finally, Ensign Lek spoke up. Lieutenant, what are your orders? Thek looked around at his crew. These were soldiers he had trained with, fought beside, trusted with his life. Many of them were young, barely out of the military academies. They were following orders because that was what they had been taught to do. Stand down, Thek said quietly. Sir? I said, stand down. We will not be attacking Colony 7 today. Communications. Officer Dex turned in his chair. Lieutenant, we have incoming messages from Fleet Command. They're asking for our status report. Thek took a deep breath. Tell them we're experiencing technical difficulties. Our weapon systems are offline. Was a lie, but his crew did not question it. Instead, several of them looked relieved. Within hours, similar technical difficulties were being reported throughout the Vorthak fleet. Weapons malfunctioned, navigation systems failed, communication arrays went offline. Thousands of ships found themselves unable to carry out their orders to destroy human colonies. Supreme Commander Kral realized what was happening and flew into a rage. Sabotage, he declared. Our own soldiers are betraying the Empire. He was right. Lieutenant Thek was not the only officer to disobey orders that day. Across the galaxy, Vorthak commanders found reasons to delay their attacks, spare civilian populations, or avoid combat entirely. Captain Voss, the veteran who had been studying human philosophy, went further than most. He sent a coded message directly to Colony 7, warning them of the approaching attack and giving them time to evacuate. Commander Hex of the battleship Iron Fist actually turned his guns on other Vorthak ships when they tried to attack a human hospital ship. The brief battle resulted in 2 destroyed Vorthak vessels and the safe escape of 3,000 human refugees. But the most significant defection came from an unexpected source. General Rax had served the Vorthak Empire for 400 years. He had personally overseen the conquest of 6 different species and the destruction of dozens of worlds. He was considered absolutely loyal to the Empire's goals until he watched Ambassador Bay's transmission. Something in her words reached past centuries of conditioning and military training. When he received orders to execute captured human civilians as an example to others, General Rax found himself unable to comply. Instead, he did something unprecedented in Vorthak history. He defected. General Rax took his entire battle group, over 200 ships and 50,000 soldiers, and disappeared into the space between galaxies. Intelligence reports suggested he was forming some kind of resistance movement, but Supreme Commander Kral could not locate him. The human colonies that should have been destroyed in the first wave remained intact. Refugee ships filled with evacuated civilians made their way to safer systems. Most shocking of all, over 300 Vorthak soldiers requested asylum in human space, claiming they could no longer serve an empire dedicated to genocide. Ambassador Bay kept her promise. The defecting soldiers were welcomed into human colonies, given new identities, and helped to build peaceful lives. Some even joined the TIE Foundation, working to prevent the very wars they had once fought. Lieutenant Thek was among them. He arrived at New Geneva Colony, with nothing but his uniform and Shinhara's toy spaceship. The human authorities could have treated him as a prisoner of war or war criminal. Instead, they offered him counseling, education, and a chance to start over. Park, Minho, Kim Tae's old friend, was the one who interviewed Thek for refugee status. Why did you defect? Park asked during their first meeting. Thek carefully placed the small toy spaceship on the table between them. A human child gave this to me because she thought I looked sad. Later, a human doctor saved the lives of my soldiers even though we were trying to kill her. Your people kept showing me kindness when I expected hatred. He paused, struggling to find the right words. Your friend Kim Tae was right. Strength does come from preventing pain, not causing it. I want to learn how to be strong the way humans are strong. Park picked up the toy spaceship and examined it carefully. This belongs to Shinhara. Her family survived the attack on their research station. She's living on New Sol now. She's alive? She's alive. And I think she would be happy to know that her gift helped save lives. As word of the mass defection spread, panic grew within the Vorthak High Command. The empire that had seemed invincible just months ago was falling apart from within. Entire star systems were declaring independence. Military units were refusing orders or switching sides completely. Supreme Commander Kral called an emergency session of the Council of War. The infection has spread too far, he announced. Half our military is compromised. Our own soldiers are protecting our enemies. What do you propose? asked General Thax, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. Kral's black eyes gleamed with desperate fury. If our soldiers will not destroy the humans, then I will do it myself. I will travel to Earth and publicly execute their leaders. When our people see that human kindness offers no protection against superior force, they will remember their duty. It was a desperate plan, born of desperation and failing authority. But it was also exactly what Ambassador Bay had been waiting, for she had never intended her transmission to prevent all attacks on human colonies. She had intended to draw out the most dangerous enemy leader and give him a target he could not resist. Supreme Commander Kral was coming to Earth, and Bay Sumin would be ready for him. Supreme Commander Kral's flagship Death's Edge approached Earth with an escort of only 12 ships. It was all that remained loyal to him from the once mighty Vorthak fleet. The rest had either defected, disappeared, or simply refused to follow him on what many considered a suicide mission. Supreme Commander, reported his communications officer, Earth Defense Command is requesting we identify ourselves and state our intentions. Kral laughed, a sound without humor. Tell them that Supreme Commander Kral of the Vorthak Empire has come to end their pathetic experiment in weakness. Tell them I will demonstrate the futility of their so-called kindness. On Earth, Ambassador Bay Sumin stood in the United Earth Assembly building, surrounded by representatives from every human colony. The Great Hall had been converted into a broadcast center, with cameras positioned to transmit to billions of beings across the galaxy. He's here, she announced calmly. Kral has come just as we hoped he would. Dr. Choi Yuna, now director of the Tay Foundation, looked worried. Are you sure about this plan? If something goes wrong? Kim Tay trusted in the power of forgiveness even as he died, Bay replied. If his sacrifice is going to mean anything, we have to trust it too. Park Minho approached the podium where Bay would make her final stand. In his hands, he carried a simple wooden box containing soil from New Busan, where his friend had died 8 months ago. Kim would be proud of what you're doing, he said quietly. I hope so. Because I'm about to find out if human kindness really can change the universe. The Death's Edge entered Earth's atmosphere without permission, its massive hull casting shadows over entire cities. Kral had chosen to land in Geneva, where the United Earth Assembly met. He wanted maximum visibility for what he planned to do. As his ship touched down in the plaza outside the assembly building, millions of humans gathered to watch. But instead of fleeing in terror, they came bearing flowers, children's drawings, and messages of peace. The crowd was completely silent, showing no fear despite facing the most dangerous being in the galaxy. Kral emerged from his ship wearing full ceremonial armor, flanked by his remaining loyal guards. His forearms carried weapons capable of destroying entire city blocks. His black eyes surveyed the crowd with contempt. I am Supreme Commander Kral, he announced, his voice amplified by speakers throughout the city. I have come to end the infection that your species has spread throughout my empire. Ambassador Bay walked out of the assembly building alone, carrying no weapons or protective gear. She approached Kral calmly, stopping just a few meters away from the alien leader who had ordered the genocide of her species. Welcome to Earth, Supreme Commander, she said with genuine politeness. I am Ambassador Bay Sumin. We have been expecting you. Kral studied her with confusion. You know why? I am here. You know what I plan to do. Yet you show no fear. Fear would serve no purpose, Bay replied. You are here because you believe that killing me will restore your empire's faith in violence. You think that by showing my death to the galaxy, you can prove that kindness offers no protection against superior force. Exactly. Your friend Kim Tay infected my soldiers with weakness. His words poisoned their minds with doubt and hesitation. But when they see you die begging for mercy, they will remember their true nature. Bai smiled sadly. You still don't understand, do you? Kim didn't infect your soldiers with weakness, he reminded them of their strength. Impossible. Mercy is weakness. Compassion is deception. We have proven this across 17 conquered worlds. Then prove it one more time, Bay said, spreading her arms wide. Kill me in front of the entire galaxy. Show everyone watching that human kindness offers no protection against Vorthak power. Kral raised his primary weapon, a device capable of causing the same agonizing death that Kim Tae had experienced. The crowd remained silent, but cameras transmitted the scene to every inhabited world in known space. Any last words? Kral asked mockingly. Yes, Bay said, looking directly into the nearest camera. To every being watching this, human and alien alike, remember that we always have a choice. We can choose fear or hope, hatred or love, revenge or forgiveness. What we choose determines not just our own fate, but the fate of everyone around us. She turned back to Kral. And to you, Supreme Commander, I want you to know that I forgive you for what you're about to do. I forgive you for the colonies you've destroyed, the families you've separated, the fear you've spread across the galaxy. You are not evil, just afraid. Afraid that kindness might be stronger than cruelty. That love might be more powerful than hate. Kral's weapon began to charge, energy crackling around its barrel. Your words will not save you. I know. But maybe they'll save you. The energy beam struck Bay in the chest, sending her to the ground in agony. The weapon was designed to maximize suffering before death, and Kral watched with satisfaction as his victim writhed in pain. But as Ambassador Bay lay dying, she did something that shattered Kral's expectations completely. She smiled. Despite the terrible pain, despite knowing she was about to die, Bay Suman looked up at her killer with compassion and spoke her final words. Thank you for giving me the chance to prove that love is stronger than fear. I hope someday you discover the peace that you've spent so long running from. Her eyes closed and she was gone. For a moment, the plaza fell completely silent. Then something unprecedented happened. The crowd began to applaud, not in celebration of violence, but in honor of courage. Humans and aliens alike, including many defected Vorthak soldiers, stood and clapped for a woman who had faced death with forgiveness rather than hatred. The sound was transmitted across the galaxy, reaching every world where intelligent beings lived. On Vorthak military bases, soldiers stopped what they were doing and listened. On conquered worlds, populations looked up at the sky and felt hope for the first time in generations. Kral stared down at Bay's body, confusion and rage warring in his mind. This was not how it was supposed to happen. His victims were supposed to beg, to curse him, to prove their weakness through fear. Supreme Commander. One of his guards reported nervously. We're receiving reports from across the Empire. Military units are laying down their weapons. Planetary governors are declaring independence. The homeworld itself is in revolution. Kral activated his communication system and watched in horror as reports flooded in from every corner of his former empire. The sight of Ambassador Bay's peaceful death had been the final catalyst. What Kim Tae had started, she had finished. Lieutenant Thek, now living peacefully on New Geneva Colony, watched the broadcast with tears in his eyes. Around him, other defected Vorthak soldiers wept openly for the human woman who had died too. Set them free. General Rax, leading the Vorthak Liberation Front from his hidden base, broadcast a message of his own. The Empire is dead. Long live the Republic of Free Worlds. Back on Earth, Kral found himself surrounded by his own guards, their weapons pointed at him rather than the human crowd. It's over, sir, said Captain Drix, Kral's most trusted officer. The empire you served no longer exists. Our people have chosen freedom over conquest, peace over war. Kral looked around wildly, unable to process what was happening. His entire worldview, built over centuries of successful conquest, was crumbling around him. This is impossible, he whispered. Fear is stronger than hope. Power is stronger than weakness. But love is stronger than fear, said a small voice. Kral turned to see a human child approaching him. It was Shinhara, now 9 years old, carrying a bouquet of flowers. Behind her walked her parents, Dr. Shin Wubin and Li Minji, showing no fear despite facing the being who had tried to kill them months earlier. These are for you, Hara said, offering the flowers to Kral. My friend Lieutenant Thek told me, "You're very sad and angry. Flowers help when you're sad." Kral stared down at the child, his mind unable to comprehend what he was seeing. She was offering him kindness after he had just murdered someone in front of her eyes. The psychological stress was too much. Supreme Commander Kral, conqueror of 17 worlds, collapsed to his knees and began to weep. The genetic conditioning that had suppressed his emotions for 400 years finally broke completely. "I don't understand," he sobbed. "Why don't you hate me? Why aren't you afraid?" Little Hara gently placed the flowers in one of his 4 hands. "Because being angry and scared makes you feel bad inside. Being kind makes you feel good inside. Don't you want to feel good inside?" For the first time in his life, Kral experienced genuine remorse. The weight of centuries of violence and cruelty crashed down on him all at once. He had destroyed entire civilizations, killed billions of innocent beings, and spread fear across the galaxy. And this child was offering him flowers. 6 months later, former Supreme Commander Kral stood before the newly formed Galactic Peace Tribunal. Instead of executing him for his crimes, the Council of Free Worlds sentenced him to spend the rest of his life working to repair the damage he had caused. He accepted the sentence gratefully. The Vorthak Empire was officially dissolved, replaced by the Galactic Confederation of Free Worlds. The new government's first act was to establish the Kim Tai Memorial Foundation for Interspecies Understanding, dedicated to promoting peace through compassion. Park Min-ho served as the foundation's first director, working alongside former enemies who had become friends.